Hello and welcome to the Ilene Silverman Show. I'm your host Ilene, and on this week's program, our guests discuss the Price Library of Judaica, University of Florida, the significance of their challenge grant, and the importance of conserving a priceless book, and why your family history matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for our program. The Price Library of Judaica is one of America's greatest Judaica libraries. To tell us more, I'm pleased to introduce my guest, Dr. Rebecca Jefferson, head Isser and Ray Price Library of Judaica, George Smathers Library, University of Florida. And it's wonderful to have you join us, Rebecca.
Thank you, Ilene. It's great to be here.
Oh, well, I want to thank you, number one, for the wonderful tour that you gave me of the library and the Judaica Suite, and all the other very special times I have visited.
Very great pleasure.
Well, my pleasure. And when did you first come to Gainesville and the University of Florida?
Well, it was actually 7 years ago this month, in February 2010.
Oh, okay, a good celebration.
Yes.
And, okay, now I loved your accent. Where are you from?
I'm from Cambridge, England, and not from Alabama, as some people suspect.
No, I can tell. Not from Alabama. I can tell you've got that beautiful English accent, and you have brought with you a lot of knowledge about libraries, collections that are being put to good use here. And I know so. And so sort of formed the picture for me how everything began to get this collection of Judaica.
Right. Well, it began in 1977.
Okay.
The University of Florida had established a Center for Jewish Studies, but the center needed a library to support its teaching. And it happened that in 1977 there was a private library for sale, and it was owned by a rabbi in Chicago, Rabbi Leonard Mishkin, and he had the best private library in the country at that time. And we the University of Florida,
right,
applied for our first National Endowment for the Humanities Challenge Grant.
Oh wow, way back then, okay, right at the beginning.
And it was a fundraising grant, it was one of the first such grants issued by the National Endowment for the Humanities, and it offered federal funding as a matching fund for money raised. So the wonderful community of Gainesville and North Central Florida came together to
embrace it.
And we were able to get this Mishkin collection. Before we got it, we sent Harvard's curator to go and have a look at the collection and tell us whether it was worth buying.
Yes.
And he came back with a stunning report and said it was absolutely superb, and that by purchasing it, it would thrust the University of Florida into the ranks of all the other
into the forefront.
Universities.
And that has happened, but of course the involvement of the Price family was a turning point.
That's right. So they
How did that come?
They came in as a result of this challenge grant. They heard about it. Jack and Sam, the two brothers who made the endowment,
from Jacksonville.
From Jacksonville.
Who know my whole family.
Right.
Yes,
they were raised by Isser and Ray, and Isser and Ray strongly supported education and
philanthropy. And yes,
and so they made this gift, the largest that the libraries had ever received, and they named the library for their parents, the Isser and Ray Price Library of Judaica.
And what a wonderful tribute, and very fitting.
That's right. That's right.
And what about now? And so your collections have grown and grown. About how many items are there, and what are the dates? What are we looking at when we view this?
It's gone from strength to strength. It was curated by Robert Singerman for 30 years, who collected. Was an amazing collector, and we now have 110,000 volumes. So we're one of the largest and best in this region, and our books date back to the 16th century, but the largest part is late 19th and early 20th century.
Okay.
And that's really what makes this such a stunning collection.
Right, and very relevant. And you collect all aspects of Jewish history and culture and reading, so kind of explain that, because it's quite comprehensive, and rare books.
Absolutely. We covered the breadth and the depth of Jewish history, culture, experience. So from the biblical period through to the modern period, the Jewish experience has been all over the world, so every Jewish culture in the world is covered. So we have materials from China, from India, of course a huge concentration from Europe.
Right, yes.
And we cover all the key periods, naturally, European history, the Holocaust.
And then the crown jewel of this whole library, the Judaica Suite, which was just wonderful to be in. It has an aura.
That's right.
Yes.
And we really welcome all visitors to come to the Judaica Suite. And we get daily tours from students, faculty, members of the public. It's a beautiful place. It was designed for us by a Florida architect and artist called Kenneth Treister.
Well known in Florida.
That's right.
Yes.
He's known for his Holocaust memorial down on
Exactly.
Miami Beach. He's also known because he's designed some wonderful buildings and some amazing interiors too, many with Judaic themes.
Yes, a wonderful art piece in the foyer of our B'nai Israel congregation.
That's right.
By him. But just the sculptures, the way it's all set up, it has special meaning and relevance. And as I said, you just feel a certain quiet reverence when you're in that Judaica Suite. And
That's right.
I compliment you and everyone. And we have lots more to talk about, but we're going to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're talking about the Price Library of Judaica, and I'm pleased to introduce John Freund, Head of Conservation, UF Libraries. And Rebecca, I'm pleased to welcome you back. Thank you, John. And tell me, I have read a little about the Rebinding of Isaac, this wonderful book that you're working on painstakingly. And how did the libraries, come into possession of this priceless treasure?
This is one of the wonderful Michigan books, one of his rarer pieces. Most of, like I said, was late 19th, early 20th century, but this one actually dates from the 16th century. Very special book indeed. Tells so many stories.
Oh my gosh.
It was written by a Spanish rabbi in the 15th century, and it's a work of sermons. At that time, the Jewish people were being forced to listen to sermons in order to try and convert them.
Right.
Isaac's response was to compile his own set of sermons, and at the same time that he didn't like this sort of conversion tactic, he very much admired the Christian preachers and their methods of persuasion, and so he tried to convince other Jewish rabbis to adopt this in their sermonizing.
Right.
So this is his answer, but sadly for Isaac, he was expelled from Spain in 1492 with the Great Expulsion from Spain,
right,
where all the Jews were forced to leave. He died in Naples a year later, and his book was published by a great publisher, in fact a Christian Hebraist, a Christian publisher in Italy in 1545. So this is
so it
book
has quite, yes,
but there's
a
another
history.
Story in its pages, and maybe John.
Right, John?
When we got this book, it was commercially rebound.
Okay.
So bound in like the 60s. And the binding didn't have anything to do with the book. It was just not
just a way
appropriate
to hold
at all.
it together.
So Rebecca wanted us to rebind it sort of in the way it would have originally been bound. Now, the pages here you want to talk about?
So one of the stories inside of here shows how the books survived the Inquisition. So the Jews had to offer up their books to the Inquisition to check that there was nothing in there
that would be considered
right.
Yes,
Negative would need to be banned, or would mean that the book got destroyed. And very often you'll find ecclesiastical signatures saying, yes, this book passes the
I
test.
see, they had to check it off.
In this case, here you can see parts of it have been blacked out.
I know.
Where the passage is offensive.
Okay, so that's how they dealt with it. They
right. What's interesting about our copy is, there's another copy of this book in the University of Pennsylvania. Their copy, it's completely blacked out on this page, and it's signed by a priest who says
who thought
he's
everything
read
was objectionable.
He's dealt with it, and now it can survive. We think our book was actually censored by the Jewish community.
So they were a little less...
They knew what they were reading.
Yes.
So they didn't have to black it all out.
Right.
They only had to black out the bits that needed to
that
be
they thought absolutely
and
needed.
That's how it
Good
survived.
work.
So this book is a real survivor.
Oh.
But unfortunately, our copy is missing its front pieces and its back pieces, and that's probably why it came to us
in the binding. Yes. But how do you even begin, John, to deal with something?
Well, first off, you have to figure out how it was originally bound. And that you can tell both by looking up other copies of it and also knowing the history of binding and how a book of this time period bound in Germany would have been bound at that time. So once we figured that out, then we have several options in rebinding it, and we chose this one. Of course, this isn't completed yet, but this book was taken apart completely. All the pages were cleaned, repaired, and then I re-sewed it onto these double cords here, which are then laced into the wooden boards. And eventually this part will be covered with leather. And so this would be a way a book of this time period would have originally been bound.
Would have been seen and presented. I have to ask, how long have you been working on this project?
I've been working on it for several months, but not all the time. So I would say by the time I'm done, I'll probably have about 40 or 50 hours worth of work in it.
Right.
Into the book.
But it's got to take such concentration and attention to detail.
Well, yeah, I guess it does, but you just have to know how it was done originally. And the book tells you a lot about itself when you take it apart.
To you.
because
Okay.
you can see where the holes were for the sewing, what kind of materials were used, how it was originally put together. So basically you take it apart and then put it back together the way it was
Yes,
before.
in the authentic
So you just
way.
got to pay attention to how it was done originally.
Well, I still think that takes a certain skill. I congratulate you.
Thank you.
I think the UF Libraries is lucky to have him.
Absolutely. And John
Yes.
doesn't just deal with
That's
rare
right.
books like this. You do
With
all manner
many,
of
many
conservation projects.
Judaica and other subject matters.
Right, we deal with a whole range of materials, books, paper, flat paper, photographs, pretty much anything that the libraries collect.
Right.
We will conserve in their
Conserve it.
lab. Right.
Wonderful. And we have much more to talk about. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about the Price Library of Judaica, and I'm pleased to introduce Sterling Garcia, Senior Director of Development, Smathers Libraries. And Sterling, it's wonderful to have you join us.
It's great to be here, Ilene.
Well, I think back to meeting you, a few months ago, and how much we talked about looking forward to putting this whole program together. And since then, I've learned so much. And what is your involvement? Tell us all with the Smathers Libraries.
So the Smathers Library in the last couple of years received the National Endowment for the Humanities Challenge Grant. And so what this grant has been built to do is to bring more awareness to the Library of Judaica,
Right.
and be able to bring the different parts of our collection and be able to promote them in a way that only the University of Florida can, with our Florida history collection, our rare Judaica collection, of
Yes.
course, and then also merging our Latin American and Caribbean collections.
Oh, so quite a lot, but
Yes.
bringing it more all together. And explain more about the Challenge Grant.
So the grant is one of 16 grants that were given nationally. Back in 1977, we received one of the first National Endowment for the
Right.
Humanities Challenge grants, which was really unique and an opportunity for the Price Library to be able to
Right.
to showcase.
Kinda kickstart it
Yes,
and-
absolutely. And so what we're doing now is continuing to do fundraising for the Challenge Grant, and for every $3 that is given to the
This is the good thing.
the endowment, the federal government matches $1, and so they have awarded us up to $500,000 to be able to build an endowment
Okay.
that will do the work that is so important to the Price Library.
Right. So every time one of us gives, which we're asking, then it's going to make a total difference.
That's correct.
Yes,
Yes.
because we want to reach that goal. Is there a mark you have to reach? Is it something checked out every year? Where I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork involved in maintaining a challenge grant, and a lot of things to oversee.
Yes, so for every year out of the 5 years of the grant, we do have certain targets that we need to meet to be able to reap the full benefits of the grant. And so this year is no different than any of the other years. So we're looking for as much support as possible from the public, from UF alum,
Right.
and from folks who are actually just genuinely interested in Judaica.
Right.
And we want people to know that we're approaching this in a whole unique way, unlike any other institution, because we're going out there and we're doing the things that we say we're going to do once we have the endowment built. We're already doing it.
You're already doing it to show this is what it'll mean.
Right, we're already going into communities, creating partnerships, scanning archives, letters.
Right, so you can take your scanner on the road, so to speak. Yes, and the precious papers we've talked about that are in my family, and others that I know can be a way of preserving them.
Right, and we've created something called the Jewish Diaspora Collection, and it's a free online database of all these materials that anyone can see from their computer. So far, over 180,000 pages and growing.
Digitized. So that just makes it available to everybody.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, outstanding.
And we're doing oral histories,
Oral history is so important to capture the memories of all of this way of life and this tradition.
Right.
And it's a wonderful legacy.
And the endowment will allow us to bring in scholars and to have conferences and to fund students. And there are many great reasons to support this, this endeavor.
And thank you both. Thank you, Sterling, for all your hard work. We
course.
appreciate you. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're talking about the Price Library of Judaica. And Rebecca, I want to thank you and everyone involved for the wonderful dedication of the Safer family in our honor that was held recently. It was so well done, and it was just a privilege to be there, and I'm very proud to be a Safer of Jacksonville and to have that legacy. I can still hear my mother saying that because she always said that, how proud to be a Safer. So how did all of this begin with our cousin Edwin Safer? Tell me the story.
Well, I love Edwin. I first met him in 2010, not long after I'd arrived, and he came to the University of Florida looking for help with his grandfather's papers rather. These are the Reverend Benjamin Safer's sermons. Reverend Benjamin Safer was the first rabbi of Jacksonville, and he wrote his sermons in Hebrew script, but it's actually English.
It's amazing. This is my great uncle.
Really, really amazing, and some incredible photographs and other items in the collection that shed light on early Jewish life in early Jacksonville.
Right.
And they were incredible. And through our conversation, we decided that this had to be a collection in the library, and that we could do so many things with it. And after we received it, we digitized it. We made a Reverend Benjamin Safer collection, and then we put on a large exhibition called Jewish Jacksonville, and we received other materials too from other members of your family.
I know. Pictures of my mother were there.
Right, right.
I was there with my other family members, and we couldn't believe. We said, oh my gosh, this is here in this library, and they want this. This is important to understanding Florida Jewish history.
And you know why? Because Florida is the third largest Jewish population in the United States, and yet no history of Florida Florida Jewry has been written. And so now is the time to collect these materials and to start to tell
Right.
that story.
Yes, and before something has happened to a lot of these things that we want to save, John.
Yes, one of the most common questions we get from people is how to take care of their own family papers, photographs, and memorabilia. And probably the most important thing you can do is be aware of the environment you keep them in. You don't want to keep them in a garage or an attic or outdoor shed, things like that. Keep them in the house where the environment is good.
Right.
And that's the number one thing to do. And then from there on you can look up. There's plenty of web sites that tell you how to take care of family papers. The National Archives has one, I believe, and also Northeast Document Conservation Center. And they'll tell you how to take care of the papers,
Right.
preserve them for the future.
Oh.
And you can come to
Okay.
us because we like talking about family papers.
I know.
And we can tell you if you're interested in donating to the library, if the library feels they have a place in an
For that.
archive, or we can just tell you how you can go about keeping them for future generations in your home.
Right, which is important too, to preserve your own history and for other generations, whether it's, from your family, one family to another, or in the library.
And
It matters. Our history does indeed make a difference.
That's right. And do you remember the dedication of the Hebrew book alcove in the Judaica Suite?
Yes, with the wonderful, yes,
by
right
Edwin,
here.
who's named it for his grandfather. Do you
Right.
remember that he read Reverend Benjamin Safer's sermon that said...
I do indeed, and gave us all copies.
That's right.
Yes.
And it said, remember the days of old, right?
It did, and that just resonates. Remember the days of old, because they're your guide to the future and to doing good for the future.
Yes, that's right.
And there were many important lessons. And I see here you have letters from Papa.
So this is another reason I love Edwin.
Yes.
Because he's one of these, somebody who has not only collected his and preserved his family materials, he's also written about them. Letters from Papa is all about the family. It contains all the documents, all the
Yes.
history that he's been able to research, genealogical charts, everything. So a researcher using this collection to try and build the history of
one
Jewish
family, right.
life in Jacksonville and in North Central Florida will be able to use this to help guide them through the collection.
So it has a great deal more meaning.
Right.
Oh, I'm just so impressed with all the work you're doing, the rebinding of Isaac, and just Sterling Garcia, and the work he's putting into the Challenge Grant, and Rebecca, certainly all you're doing, and everyone at the Price Library of Judaica for making this possible. And I urge everyone to visit and to go to the Judaica Suite and to see the Reverend Benjamin Safer Hebrew language book alcove, which, thank you, was just dedicated and so meaningful to all of us and everyone who visits. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. And I hope you will visit the Price Library of Judaica, Smathers Libraries, University of Florida. I'm so glad you tuned in, and I hope you'll join us next week. Take care.